Welcome to a sunny, hot and humid Newark. I'm making my pretty much annual pilgrimage to Newark now. I do love coming here. The main reason is to once again look on the walls of Newark Castle for the Harvestman Liburnum species A. Never found it here, although it undoubtedly occurs somewhere in Newark, so keep your eyes open if you live in Newark. But in this particular area there will be a few things that I can film and show you. If I can't find anything, we'll have to go up at the castle. Nottingham could learn a thing or two from Newark. That's what a castle looks like, not the thing that's at Nottingham. Somewhere that I do plan on visiting though in the coming weeks. River Trent's like a mill pond, and it's a quiet Sunday morning, people just having a morning stroll, finding somewhere to have a coffee. And what a view that is. I don't think Nottinghamshire makes enough of Newark Castle. Well, no sooner have I got out of the car and begun my short walk around Newark, we bumped into the first really good record. This is the blotch mine of Phyllonecta pastorella, and as far as I can remember, there's only maybe 2 other sites in the county where it's known. And if I also remember right, I found it new to Nottinghamshire a few years ago, and that was at Colwick Park on the same kind of crack willow. There are several of these looking around, and it's a very obvious mine. I'll get you closer and we'll have a proper look at it. Well, here's a closer look at this distinctive blotch mine. It's distinctive because there aren't many species that mine the leaves of willows such as this crack willow here. It's a large, roughly oval shaped blotch formed between the midrib of the leaf and the outer edge. And although the mine is technically an underside of the leaf mine, it's very obvious from the feeding damage here on the upper surface of the leaf, so very easy to spot. If I take this off and we have a look at the underside, you can see that it is a large mine. This one is still occupied. The only distinguishing feature about the mine is that single crease that runs lengthways through the mine. That's an excellent little start, that's the leaf mine of Phyllonecta pastorella. Nice one. I'll collect a few of those and see if we can hatch them out. Now on the same willow there's a number of these, and this is the leaf mine of Phyllonecta saligna. It's a mine that occurred in Nottinghamshire the first time a couple of years ago down at Stanton-on-the-Wolds, if I remember correctly, and it was Steve Mathers who found that. I then found it at Retford, I think it was last year, but it has gone mad. When I started to look for it at other locations last year, I was finding it everywhere, and I have recorded it here before, and there's a number of mines on this tree. In fact, there's one just a few inches from this particular one. Very obvious, a silvery mine with a dark central line of frass, and the lava is still working the end where my grubby thumbnail is on the right hand side of the leaf here. So we've got 2 species, both fairly new to Nottinghamshire within the last couple of years. So what else, if anything, are we going to find? one of my favourite views in Nottinghamshire. It's a lovely view, especially on a day like today, and the sun just catches the walls of the castle right. And it's always been late in the year, really, in the autumn, when Dilys and I, or I've come here myself, forget about it a lot of the rest of the year, but I do love and look forward to coming here. My intention is to finish crossing the river, because surprisingly I'm not walking on water here, and head up the right hand side past the boat where that couple were walking, and reach the castle. We go up round by the castle. Maybe one day Liburnum species A will turn up, but the only harvestman I've had here is Apilioperitinus, which is a large bodied and long legged harvestman, which occurs sporadically on the walls of the buildings on the right of the Trent here. So we'll see what else we can find on this glorious morning. And this ivy covered wall here, right at the side of the locks on this part of the Trent, is home to this delightful of spiders. This is Enigma walkenarii, and there's many webs on these large leaves of ivy. A lot of the webs are vacated, and this one is a male, so there's probably a lot of males wandering around here now. There are some females, but on many leaves there is the typical sheet web made by Enigma walkenarii. It's nice to see the spider out, because normally the spider is underneath this sheet web. It's a spider Dilys and I found new to Nottinghamshire at Newark a number of years ago, and we've found it at many sites since. But it's most prevalent in the Trent Valley. It is in the Edwinstone Market Warsop area, and I have had this now in my own garden. I remember being excited when Dilys and I found this when we were doing an invertebrate survey in Worcestershire, but since then this spider has romped further north, and there is a nice female here that I can show you, and she's there, and that's typically how you see Enigma walkenarii, sat underneath that protective sheet. They can take down surprisingly large prey. I've seen these with flies twice the size. But it's a lovely addition to our fauna in the county, and it is spreading further north in the UK. I don't know where the most northerly record is, but it should be well into Yorkshire by now, I would imagine. So that's one spider which has arrived here in Newark recently. Whether I can show you one today or not, I don't know, but Steatota nobilis, the noble false widow, is also in these realms. And this is Apilioperitinus. It is a large-bodied harvestman, as I mentioned earlier on, and the length of the body on this is at least 10 millimeters. And this one is one of just 3 here. About 10 yards that have just walked past, there are 4. This is the best concentration I've ever seen of Apilioperitinus. It is a large harvestman, large-bodied and long-legged. The males obviously have a smaller body. All the ones I've seen today have been females. This is one of the best sites to track down this species, although it does occur in good numbers on South or Minster, but you're pretty much guaranteed here to find this wonderful harvestman. And here's the 2 Apilioperitinus together. The other one on this particular wall is lower down, but this is one of those species that was thought to be in potential trouble after the arrival of Apiliocanistrinae, which is fairly similar but smaller bodied and distinctly orange. But As is so often the case when so-called invasive species arrive into the UK, people tend to get a bit excited and over-exaggerate the potential effects of species. I've not noticed any decline in Apilio peritinus at the site that Dillis and I traditionally always recorded this species on. Have had it and still do get it at home, along with Apilio canistrini, but have yet to see any evidence suggesting that canistrini has pushed out this large Apilio peritinus. So nice to know it's still here at the sides of the Trent. And this is the castle. I know it's only a ruin, but you can get to the higher floors in parts, although access isn't available today by the looks of it. But it's a fabulous ruin, if nothing else. Where I've walked today is really well worth coming. The Queen Hornet's just flown past. But what a beautiful spot. Very pleasant gardens. There's often school parties here. It's just a lovely spot to come, and you can easily pass an hour or two. It's a cracking place to come. Really nice place to have a wander around, find a few invertebrates perhaps, or just come and have a pleasant wander. The grounds at the castle here are lovely, and the view isn't too shabby either. Well, that's my little visit to Newark. Really enjoyed it. Found a few invertebrates, had a walk around the centre of Newark. Lots of lovely little streets. It's a great way to amble around shopping for a couple of hours. Lots of little tiny nooks and crannies filled with shops. But lovely. Found Steodota nobilis, the noble false widow, and that was right against the church. And what a fabulous church Newark has. No libellum species A on the walls of it, unfortunately, but a nice walk round the outside of it to find a few bits and bobs. Now I need to find a few bits and bobs from the inside of a pub, or from the outside of a pub. I've got a thirst on, and I'm leaking something terrible.